Witnesses of the World by Tanya Marquez. It is now when we are called as witnesses of the world to mend it, to change its course, to restore it. It is now when we are called to act on our values, not to hide, not to fear, but to be bold and loud. It is now that we are called to continue our fight for justice, to organize, to speak up. It is now. Let us gather. Let us give each other courage. Let us worship.
Oh my gosh, the Wonderbox is here again, and so are so many children and youth and young at heart. If you feel like any of those today and you want to come forward, you can join me now up here. So you can sit right there. Good job. Good to see you. Good to see you all. I'm wondering if there's someone. Oh, okay. Got the second bus load in the back. There we go. Welcome, everyone. You can come up a little closer, especially if you can't see behind the big teens or youth. I'm wondering if there's someone who's never opened the Wonderbox before that would like to. Yeah, would you like to, Olive? I wonder what's in here. Oh my gosh, what is it? It's a book. Thank you. You can go sit down. This is one of my favorite books. It's a book called Reaching for the Sun. And that's S-U-N for all you little boys out here. Reaching for the sun. How many of you do that in the morning? Reach up and stretch. You ever do that? Just stretch before you go downstairs or maybe throughout the day. Adults do that too. Well, you know, there was someone once who tried to reach so high to the sun, he actually wanted to get the sun. Can you believe that? Could you imagine reaching up and actually touching the sun? Well, let's ask, what would happen if that happened? Yeah, it would burn your fingers. It would be just not a good day, not a good, your body wouldn't, I mean, it would be bad, yeah? Oh, you're freezing in space before you even getting there. So this is a fool's errand, I think. And yet someone, and we're not talking about a couple years ago, we're talking about quite a long time ago, tried to reach for the sun. Does anyone know what that person's name was? Yeah. Icarus, not to be confused with Ichabod Crane, which I did get mixed up sometimes, which is not a good one, but also scary. Icarus, that's the second name up there. Icarus decided to try and tempt his fate. He had a dad, I think it was Daedalus, is that right? And maybe, I don't know. And he made these wings. And what did Icarus try to do? What did he do? He got too close to the sun. Have you ever heard that phrase? You got too close to the sun? Or adults probably do. Or Hamilton, does that in the Hamilton lyrics? Okay. So what happened when Icarus got too close to the sun? His wings melted. Yep. So this story of Icarus is a little bit about sometimes we humans can get a little bit ahead of ourselves and maybe think we're a little more godlike than we are. You know, we can kind of, because the sun in some ways from a lot of different cultures is kind of associated with God. And so sort of Icarus was like, I can do that. And went up there and tried to touch the sun. And boy, did he fall into the sea. And that was the end of him, I think. I didn't finish the story. There was another person, though. It was not Icarus, but it was someone else. And he had something to do with fire. Do you remember who originally had fire? I think the gods originally had fire. But who tried to steal fire from the gods? Does anyone know that one? Yeah, 2012, great movie. Anyone? Yes. Maui, that's a different, he is a demigod, yes. Prometheus tried to steal the fire from, steal fire from the gods. And Prometheus was sort of seen as like the birth of humanity and of innovation and creativity. But what happened as a result of Prometheus? Do you remember what happened after how he was punished? Oh, okay. We'll tell the other story. There was a different god, I think it was Zeus, who sent down a little box and it came down to earth, but it was closed and they were told not to open it. Do you remember whose box that was? Yeah. Yes, our third favorite music streaming service, Pandora's Box. And so Pandora's Box was like, don't open it. And how many of you, if your parents tell you to not open something, don't open it? Okay, we have a goody two shoes over here. But so what happened? Opened it and out came a lot of tough stuff. Sickness, evil, Monday mornings. It was a really rough time. So what happened was, because Prometheus went up and tried to steal fire, or went down or wherever to steal fire from the gods and bring it to humanity, despite the innovation that was, that did lead to humanity having some of these great things. How many of you like eating things that are warm or cooked? Meat is a little better cooked. And but a lot of difficult things came as well. And so today we're going to be talking a little bit about the challenges of Prometheus and Icarus, and a little bit about all of us and what we might do sometimes when we want to fly towards the sun. But I think instead of flying to the sun, getting our beeswax wings burned and melted, what do we do instead? We just stretch and get a little bit closer, appreciate the morning, and go on with our days. So today, children and youth are going to go out to their classes and they're going to do, I assume, a lot of really fun stuff. And we'll hopefully have a little fun in here as well and learn too. So you can go off to your classes now and have a good day.
I was never a big fan of Frankenstein or any scary stuff, really. I saw the movie The Birds when I was 13, and I've never been able to get those images out of my head. I could never get through the whole movie, Silence of the Lambs. I've tried several times. So when Nic proposed these monster topics, I was, wait, what? So I explored the idea of Frankenstein and the God thing. I never really saw Frankenstein as trying to play God. It was not a perspective that ever occurred to me. But thinking about how people saw life 200 years ago, most did believe that God decided when new life was granted and when one's life was over. Medicine at the time was learning a lot about the human body by studying dead bodies retrieved by grave robbers. Plus, Mary Shelley had lost her infant daughter. So bringing back the dead was top of mind for her. So I can see how Frankenstein and the public saw him as trying to play God. The other thing about Frankenstein's creature, which always affected me, was the extreme loneliness, being the only one, people avoiding and being afraid of him because he was different, and being hated by his creator. This always made me so sad. It also gave me a recognition of how a person is treated has such an impact on how one thinks and acts. It surely seemed like a good thing to be able to bring life back to the dead. But of course, the unintended consequences were not so great. So now we're on the brink of another horizon, which could be so good and powerful, artificial intelligence, as we create these computers which can learn without input from their creators anymore. In the medical world, AI is learning to do robotic surgeries that could be better than any doctor. It can make choices based on vast knowledge beyond human capability. ChatGPT is available to all of us on our phones. AI can create art and jokes and become a fabulous, effective tutor as it learns how we learn. AI can replace knowledge workers and creatives. The scary part for me is, how can we ensure human values and ethics? And whose values? Whose ethics? Imagine what AI could do for warfare strategy. Imagine what it could do for the environment. What will be the unintended consequences of this new technology? What is our collective responsibility? What is my personal responsibility?
There are two readings. The first is an excerpt from an article exploring the parallels between Frankenstein and the pursuit of artificial intelligence by Lee Jeanette. For those who may not be familiar with the novel Frankenstein, it tells the story of a visionary scientist, Victor Frankenstein, who becomes obsessed with the idea of forming life from non-living human body parts. His pursuit of knowledge and ambition ultimately leads him to create a monster he cannot control or comprehend, setting into motion a series of events that end in tragedy and despair. Similarly, the development of AI raises questions about the relationship between creators and intelligent machines. As AI systems become more advanced, they may begin to exhibit more complex behavior that are harder to predict or control. From a philosophical standpoint, the consequences of using science to create life artificially raise considerable questions about the very nature of humanity and the purpose of existence. Are we playing God and manipulating the building blocks of life? What ethical obligations are involved in bringing new forms of life into reality? As we continue to explore the frontiers of artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and other fields, the relationship between creator and creation will become ever more complicated and fraught with ethical and moral implications.
Reading is an excerpt from The End of Reality, How 4 Billionaires Are Selling a Fantasy Future of the Metaverse, Mars, and Crypto by Jonathan Taplin. The clear convergence of man and computer raises many ethical issues that we as a society need to address. But to date, individual researchers and firms have been the ones left to decide the ethical boundaries. The possibility in the near future of artificial and general intelligence, the ability of an intelligent agent to understand or learn any intellectual task that a human being can, has led many eminent scientists to worry. In 2012, no less an authority than Stephen Hawking weighed in. Facing possible futures of incalculable benefits and risks, the experts are surely doing everything possible to ensure the best outcome, right? Wrong. If a superior alien civilization sent us a message saying, "We'll arrive in a few decades," would we just reply, "Okay, call us when you get here, we'll leave the lights on"? Probably not. But this is more or less what is happening with artificial intelligence.
For this series on facing our monsters, I chose a guiding hymn to accompany us week after week. Interestingly, the song we just sang is the very first hymn in the Gray Hymnal. It is how the editors chose to begin our Singing the Living tradition, as the title of the hymnal invites. And so it is how we begin, and in the spirit of which I hope we may continue to sing week after week with thanks unto the end of not only the Gray Hymnal, but of the loving and supportive relationships we develop and cherish here at UUCCI. I chose this song in large part due to the lyrics of the first verse, which goes, "May nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. I find it somewhat odd and yet comforting that we begin our songbook with an acknowledgement of the presence of evil in the world. Evil is not really something Unitarian Universalists talk about much. Perhaps we're even bad at it. Or, more likely, we don't know how to distinguish between the notion of evil as defined in a conservative religious context and evil as a broad metaphor and symbol for the egregious and large-scale nature of some bad action or event or situation. For example, terms including evil have been used a lot in the past few weeks to describe the war unfolding in the Middle East. Regardless, it is odd that the third word in our hymnal is the word evil. And it makes me wonder and pause whether this Facing Our Monsters series did not really emerge out of nowhere, but perhaps as something we've been preparing to do for some time. Like, I wonder, maybe in all of our liberal hopefulness, we have tried to avoid acknowledging the elephant in the room, the creak at the door, or the shadow in the night, which is simply that humanity includes a natural capacity for humans to be able to do great harm and damage in the world. Here's something that feels true to me. When actions are committed that we define as inhumane or inhuman, we use those terms in part to separate us from those actions. We say, oh, that there is inhumane, but me, oh, I'm humane, because certainly I am human. Our desire to cast out the monstrous beyond us without acknowledging our human capacity to do monstrous things is neither healthy nor helpful. As we will explore today, with even good intentions, terrible impact can follow. And while it is good to distinguish what a civilization or a society or a community such as this one defines as appropriate behavior among humans, it is optimistic at best to say only non-humans, let's call them monsters, do inhuman things. Does this sort of make sense? I think this will make sense, I hope, by exploring our topic for today, because as I said, the third of our monster archetypes we're exploring is Frankenstein. Well, geez, here we go again. Another tangent that is relevant, beginning with a somewhat embarrassing question for all of you. How many of you growing up or even today sometimes confuse Frankenstein and the monster? I know I do. It's not a trick question. Growing up, if you asked me, what does Frankenstein look like? I'd say, oh, that's the green guy with bolts sticking out of his neck. Yeah, that's Frankenstein. Wrong. Wait, what? Yes. Yes, I know many of you readers out there may not be surprised, but I sure was. When I found out that that green dude with $150 of hardware sticking out of him like the new trendy piercing the youths get these days, that's actually the monster, which Frankenstein, that is Dr. Victor Frankenstein to all of us, created, I felt duped. Frankenstein is some obscure scientist with too much time and not enough love in his life. I hope you see the irony of this confusion in light of the last point I made. Throughout Mary Shelley's timeless book and throughout our own lives, we can sometimes confuse, conflate, or mistake the creator with the created, the actor and the action, the doctor and his monster. Subsequently, perhaps there are some very human conditions to be noticed within the monster, and perhaps there are some very monstrous conditions to be noticed within the human. Let's go further and find out. One of the reasons I chose this monster archetype, as alluded to here, is because it really invites the reader to consider, who is the monster? Humans throughout history in our pursuit of knowledge, technology, power, and control have harnessed their creativity and curiosity to go where no one has gone before. After all, that is the essence of invention or science or technology, to break barriers, to experience the new, to answer the seemingly unanswerable. Our human creativity, yes, yours and mine as well, is in direct relationship to Dr. Frankenstein's, which led to his creation of his monster. Now, it's important to name that the choice of calling his creation a monster is political. Just as we tend to associate inhuman things beyond us in a way that maintains our sense of humanity. When I first met with Sondra, she consciously or unconsciously referred to his creation not as a monster, but as a creature. The monster or creature is also referred to in many other ways in Shelley's book, including, as I said, creature, fiend, specter, the daemon, wretch, devil, thing, being, and ogre. Notably, none of these terms are human per se. Back to Dr. Frankenstein, there's an essential rush, drive, pull, allure to the act of creation. He embodies it, and so can we, and so do we. It can be almost godlike to bring something into being. Indeed, many religions include a conception of God or goddess or divinity or spirit or mystery that are creators by their very nature. One list of gods and creators is about 200 that I found, of examples of creator gods, divinities, spirits, etc., across time, culture, and tradition, over 200. So clearly the depiction of God as creator is not bound to just one religion, region, people, or place. As I mentioned a few weeks ago, 19th century anthropologist and philosopher Ludwig Feuerbach claimed that we are not made in God's image, but rather we create God in our own image. And so our divine attribution of creator is to both gods and humans alike. On May 8th, 2022, if you're following along at home, I gave a sermon on our UU emphasis on science and the slippery slope that exists in both theory and practice when it is pursued without compassion and restraint. In that sermon, I recalled a difficult part of our Unitarian history when our obsession with human progress led us to support and even champion the pseudo-scientific theory of eugenics. Our UU-owned publisher, Beacon Press, published several books on eugenics, including ones that Nazi themselves came to use as justification for the evil they carried out in the 1930s and 40s. It is a tough history to own, but also part and parcel of how seductive technology and human advancement and humanistic principles are as we pursue knowledge and where they can lead us as a society. And there are examples throughout history that we do not have time to explore today about our dangerous obsession with power, but worthy of lifting up are the example of Prometheus and Icarus, which we talked about in our Wonderbox time this morning. Fittingly, the alternative or subtitle, expanded title of Mary Shelley's classic is Frankenstein or the Modern Prometheus. Naming it clearly emphasizes that Dr. Frankenstein, who embodies characteristics of Prometheus and Icarus, rather than his monster, is the central figure, that he is the central figure worthy of analysis in the novel. Or said differently, like in all works of art, literature included, the artist, in this case, Mary Shelley, invites the reader to engage with the art and its component parts. So we must ask, when reading Frankenstein or hearing about it today, with whom are we attracted? With whom are we not attracted, and why? I think Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus, is of particular relevance when we consider the world we live in today, notably due to the rise in AI, or artificial intelligence. For several decades, the idea of AI has been depicted in film and TV and literature, including a common HAL 9000 in 2001, A Space Odyssey. But AI has gone from a creepy, somewhat reasonable future possibility to what feels like everywhere today. Like you cannot visit a website, read a newspaper, talk to a friend, or use your phone without artificial intelligence being right there in your face. From Facebook or its parent company Meta to Google to any number of applications and examples, including ChatGPT, we are in a new frontier of technological innovation. There's been an exponential and quickening pace, a breathtaking pace of AI breakthrough in the last decade. Innovation is happening on a daily basis, and if you blink, you will miss some new invention. Take this, for example. The applications for artificial intelligence are as diverse as they are promising. AI has penetrated various sectors of our lives, from healthcare and finance to transportation, entertainment, and beyond. In healthcare, AI aids in diagnosing diseases, predicting patient outcomes, and streamlining administrative tasks, ultimately improving the quality of medical care. In finance, it analyzes vast data sets to enhance trading strategies, detect fraudulent activities, and provide personalized financial advice. In transportation, AI plays a pivotal role in the development of autonomous vehicles, making our roads safer and transportation more efficient. In entertainment, it powers recommendation systems and content creation, offering personalized experiences to its users. The potential applications of AI are boundless, and its transformative power continues to shape the way we live, work, and interact with the world. As AI technology advances, we must ensure that it serves the greater good, making our future more efficient, equitable, and innovative. And on top of all those inventions, this last paragraph on the applications of AI was actually written by AI. I'm guilty. It was. It said, write me a paragraph on AI. It sounds better than I do. Which leads us back to this first reading, when the author wonders, quote, from a philosophical standpoint, the consequences of using science to create life artificially raises considerable questions about the very nature of humanity and the purpose of existence. Are we playing God and manipulating the building blocks of life? What ethical obligations are involved in bringing new forms of life into reality? End quote. The thing about innovation, invention, and intelligence is that they are powerful, life-enhancing, life-extending tools for our continued survival as an interdependent web of existence. That is, until they are not. There is some pivot point when the scientist becomes a mad scientist, when curiosity leads to death, and when the dream of creation leads to the nightmare of destruction. But it is hard to see that tipping point. Similar to, borrowing a different metaphor, being the frog in the pot of water, with it ever so gradually warming and warming until it's just too much to bear, too much, just too much. The late Stephen Hawking called on all people to recognize the waters in which we swim by using the analogy of aliens. Sondra read earlier that Hawking didn't mince his words in warnings about AI. He says, facing possible futures of incalculable benefits and risks, the experts are surely doing everything possible to ensure the best outcome, right? Wrong. If a superior alien civilization sent us a message saying, hey, we'll arrive in a few decades, would we just reply, okay, call us when you get here, we'll leave the lights on? Probably not. But this is more or less what is happening with artificial intelligence, end quote. Our second reading, which captures this clarion call of ethical concern, comes from a must-read book, The End of Reality, How 4 Billionaires Are Selling a Fantasy Future of the Metaverse, Mars, and Crypto, by Jonathan Taplin. You may be familiar with that name. Taplin started out as the manager for musicians, including Bob Dylan, Peter, Paul, and Mary, and Janis Joplin. And he has emerged now as a leading voice, warning of the rise of AI and big tech defining life as we know it. The End of Reality, along with his earlier book, Move Fast and Break Things, How Facebook, Google, and Amazon Cornered Culture and Undermined Democracy, paints a sobering reality of the challenges we face as a society in the 21st century. Notably, he encourages us to understand our history of the technocratic, libertarian allure of our Western culture's push for ultimate freedom, including freedom from pain and even death. In our pursuit of connection through technology, let us not lose our humanity in the process. We cannot sacrifice our lonely human selves for a sense of connection within human AI that masks our pain with humor, compassion, and just the right words. We must not forget, at least in my reading, that besides the lust of power and a desire to make a name for himself, I believe Dr. Frankenstein was himself a very lonely person. Not just his monster, his creation. He longed for connection and intimacy, and indeed, he was looking for it in the wrong places, and it was his creation, whether you see it as a monster or creature, that learns and teaches of love and humanity rather than the learned scientist. In our pursuits and longing for purpose and place, community, and understanding of who we are and where we are going, let us not look first beyond the intelligence and life that is around us in this room, that is in our children and youth out there, and that is in the mind, heart, body, and soul of each of you. You have wisdom to share, experiences, memories to offer that can help orient others to the human journey we are on, and surely the challenges we face now and in these years ahead. Technology is not bad in and of itself. Indeed, as that AI wrote part of my sermon above, it is revolutionizing whole industries, including the search to find cures for diseases and address global issues, including war and hunger, poverty, and homelessness. And with these things, with this power, comes great responsibility. As a progressive community committed to refining our character and ethical living, we can help this community, our own and our wider community, in not losing ourselves, our very humanness, in the pursuit of what might be out there. There may be, as one of our songs suggests, more love somewhere, or more joy, or more peace somewhere out there. But the character of this community at UUCCI, the ethic of our community, is to find ways to bring about that sense of love and joy and peace from within our loving and courageous spaces for which we have gathered and chosen to live our lives in covenant with generosity with one another. Who is the monster or the creature? Who is God or the human? All of these questions invite us into collective reflection and action to recognize we are not just one or the other, but filled with multitudes of possibility, pain, beauty, and hope. Each day that we have to live in this life, may we live with integrity and responsibility for the gifts of human life and of our life, surrounded by the mystery and love that holds us all and will not let us go. May we be held in that holy, special, sacred space and give thanks to be together for this journey. May it be so, and amen.